Welcome to the Light Dance Soaring Free channel.
We are so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, so today we're taking a deep dive into a very specific, deeply relatable, and honestly kind of painful dynamic, family guilt and emotional coercion.
Right, which is just a huge topic.
It really is. And to start, I want you to picture this. You're at a New Year's Eve dinner.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The table is just packed, right? The noise is loud, the room is super warm.
A classic family gathering.
Exactly. And an elder across the table smiles affectionately, reaches over, and places a glistening, perfectly cooked piece of Dongpo pork right into your bowl.
Oh, right.
And they look at you and say, "Eat more. This was your favorite when you were little." But instead of gratitude, you feel this sudden icy chill wash over you.
Yeah, it's not a warm and fuzzy feeling.
Not at all. You look at that piece of pork and you feel exactly like you've just been visited by a debt collector from an underground bank.
That is such a visceral image. But I think so many people know exactly what that chill feels like. It's a dynamic that a lot of people just accept as, the unavoidable background radiation of their lives.
Yeah, like it's just normal.
Right. But today, we're looking at this through the first-person clinical perspective of counseling psychologist Ting. She's written a lot on what she calls Chinese-style filial piety.
Which is a fascinating framework.
It is, but we're going to explore her framework not just as a cultural norm, but really through the lens of social psychology. Because we're examining her specific clinical interpretations today to understand the stark psychological mechanics she argues are operating right beneath the surface of family duty.
Right. So according to Ting's framework, that piece of pork isn't just dinner.
Far from it.
It's a collection on what she calls an emotional promissory note. And that phrase really anchors her entire perspective, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's the core concept.
Yeah. It's fascinating because, in the actual financial world, a promissory note is incredibly straightforward. You sit down, you read the terms, you sign a contract.
You know the exact principle.
Yeah, the interest rate, exactly when the debt is going to be paid off. It's totally transparent.
Precisely. But Ting argues that this emotional promissory note operates by an entirely different, almost invisible set of rules.
Invisible how?
Well, according to her writings, this note is issued the very day you are born.
Oh, wow. So you definitely didn't sign it.
No, you never signed it. You never agreed to the terms. It comes with an infinite credit limit, an entirely undefined interest rate, and it has no expiration date.
That sounds terrifying.
It really is a lifelong binding contract that you just inherited simply by existing. And the collection process is rarely overt. I mean, it's not physical intimidation.
It's not someone showing up with a baseball bat.
Right, no. It's the subtle text message you get when you say you can't make it home for a weekend. You know the one.
Oh, let me guess. It's okay, you're busy, we're old, we're not important.
That is exactly it.
Ugh, that kind of messaging is it's a precision strike. It's like signing up for a free trial on a streaming service only to realize years later it's been secretly auto-renewing by draining your emotional bank account.
That is a perfect analogy.
But I really want to unpack the mechanics of this. Because if we look at that text message, right, we can logically recognize it as a guilt trip.
Sure, intellectually we know what they're doing.
So why is it so effective? Why is this debt so hard to just, cancel?
Well, Ting's psychological analysis suggests that the system is masterful precisely because it bypasses logic. It weaponizes your own internal morality.
So you're basically policing yourself.
Exactly. The system doesn't need an external enforcer because it has installed conscience as the penalty mechanism. And in her view, this coercion is heavily sugar-coated.
Right, packaged as love or care.
Yes, packaged under the concept of human touch or human warmth, what is known as ranking way.
Right, the warmth of the community,
Yeah.
Elders looking out for you, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It looks like community care, but Ting argues that in coercive family structures, this human touch functions a lot more like an installment plan for the debt.
Which is a brilliant disguise, honestly.
It's a very effective disguise.
Yeah.
And if we connect Ting's observations to broader social psychology, specifically the work of psychologists Margaret Clark and Judson Mills, we can see exactly how this disguise functions.
Okay, lay that out for us. What did Clark and Mills find?
So they divided human relationships into two very distinct categories. The first is communal relationships. This is where individuals care for one another's mutual needs without any expectation of an instant tit-for-tat return.
Okay, so just giving because you care.
Right. A mother feeding a newborn baby is the classic example of a communal relationship.
Because obviously the mother isn't expecting the baby to like hand over a check after mealtime. The care is theoretically unconditional.
Right, exactly. But the second category they identified is exchange relationships, and these are purely transactional and conditional.
Like a business deal.
Yeah. I buy you a coffee today, you buy me a coffee tomorrow, you provide a service, I pay you an agreed upon rate. The ledger's always being balanced, and both parties are very aware of the ongoing tally.
Okay, wow. That completely reframes a lot of traditions when you apply it to family dynamics.
It really does.
Because we're always told that family is the ultimate communal relationship. The saying is always, we're family, we don't keep score.
Right, that's the narrative.
But Ting is essentially arguing that cultural emotional coercion relies on a massive bait and switch.
A huge bait and switch.
They're operating this strict exchange economy, tracking every red envelope, every favor, but they are aggressively marketing it to the child as a communal one.
That is the grand disguise, right at the center of her thesis. The family says they don't keep score, but psychologically, every single favor, every piece of pork, every tuition payment is recorded in permanent ink.
Man.
And to understand why a person just can't walk away from this hidden ledger, we have to look at sociologist Alvin Goldner's concept of the norm of reciprocity.
The norm of reciprocity. Okay, what is that?
Goldner identified that the urge to return what we receive isn't just a cultural politeness. It's a deeply ingrained, almost inescapable human instinct.
It's biological hardware, basically. I mean, in hunter-gatherer societies, reciprocity was survival. You share your hunt with me today so I don't starve, and I share my fire with you tomorrow so you don't freeze. And if you didn't reciprocate, you were exiled, which literally meant death. So our brains are wired to feel intense distress if we take it without giving back.
Precisely. You are fighting a war on two fronts when you try to untangle this. You're fighting the heavy cultural expectation of filial piety, and you're fighting your own evolutionary hardwiring that screams at you to repay any gift you're given.
That is so tough.
It is. And this is why Ting points out that their quote-unquote unconditional giving is actually the most expensive price tag of all. The biological urge to reciprocate traps you in a contract you never agreed to.
Okay, but if we understand this intellectually, like if we know we are dealing with an exchange disguised as a communal relationship, and we know our biology is just urging us to reciprocate, why does it physically hurt so much to disappoint them?
It's a great question.
Because setting a boundary shouldn't cause actual anguish, but it often does.
Well, that physical ache isn't just a dramatic metaphor. What's fascinating here is the neuroscience behind how the human brain processes social rejection.
Oh, so there's actual brain science on this?
Yes. When you try to reject these familial demands, when you say, no, I can't attend that event, or I'm not taking that career path you chose for me, your brain registers that as letting the tribe down.
And that triggers an alarm.
A massive one.
Yeah.
Research shows that this specific type of social pain activates the exact same cortical areas in the brain, like the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, as physical pain.
Wait, really? The physical pain center?
Yes. To your central nervous system, a broken social bond registers remarkably similarly to a broken arm.
Oh, wow. So the pit in your stomach, the chest pain you get when you say no to your parents. Your brain is literally signaling that you are in physical danger of exile.
Yes, you are experiencing genuine neurological pain. And Ting-Shu Ching's framework argues that certain family cultures expertly step in and weaponize that biology.
How do they weaponize it?
The culture teaches the child that this neurobiological pain is actually a metric of their morality. It teaches you that the more it hurts to comply, the more filial and righteous you are.
So the suffering is the point.
In this dynamic, yes. Your suffering is demanded as proof of your love.
Okay, I have to push back here on Ting's framing, though, because as analytical as this is, it sounds incredibly bleak.
It can sound very dark, yes.
Isn't there a biological communal imperative for parents to genuinely want the best for their children? Like, is it entirely fair to reduce decades of parental sacrifice to a cynical manipulation tactic?
That is a crucial distinction to make. Ting isn't arguing that all parenting is inherently cynical, or that genuine parental love doesn't exist.
Okay, good.
Her clinical focus is specifically on the mechanics of coercive family structures. What happens when that natural parental care is conditioned upon total compliance?
Ah, I see. The condition is the problem.
Right. And to explain how that specific coercion works, she uses a very striking metaphor. She describes the phrase, "I raised you," as a structural futures trade.
A futures trade, like applying financial market terminology to childhood upbringing.
Yes. In this specific coercive model, parents invest the capital of upbringing, food, shelter, education, extreme personal sacrifice, in exchange for a highly specific future payout.
But the payout they're demanding isn't financial reimbursement, right?
No, it's rarely just money. The payout is control over the adult child's life choices.
Wow.
Who the child marries, what career they pursue, where they live, how they raise their own children. According to Ting, these specific parents are trading childhood sustenance for adult autonomy.
And what happens in this framework when the child, who is essentially the commodity in this futures trade, decides to default on that contract?
That's where things get explosive.
Like, what if they say, I appreciate the investment, but I'm going to be an artist, not a doctor?
When a default occurs, Ting describes the resulting fallout as the family shareholders meeting.
The shareholders meeting? That's brilliant.
Relatives assemble, aunts, uncles, grandparents, they all gather to assess the situation and essentially vote to kick the child off the model student list.
It's an intervention.
An intervention designed to punish. The purpose of this collective disapproval is to trigger that exact physical pain of social rejection we just discussed, using the sheer weight of the group to force the child back into compliance.
You know, reading through her notes on this shareholders meeting, what really struck me is that the tragic irony embedded in this entire system.
How so?
Because even in her framework, no one in that room is acting like a cartoon villain. They aren't consciously trying to destroy the child.
No, they think they're doing the right thing.
Right. They are all just playing out the only script they were ever handed. The parents demanding this total compliance were once children who had their own autonomy stripped away.
It's a cycle.
They paid the infinite debt to their parents, and now they expect the debt to be paid to them. Everyone is giving what they never truly possessed, like unconditional freedom, and demanding a debt that can never actually be settled.
It is a profound chain of generational emotional deficits, and the structural asymmetry of this debt collection is staggering.
The asymmetry.
Yeah, in Ting's clinical experience, she notes that a person can swallow their pride and compromise their boundaries for decades. You can attend every required event, bite your tongue, subordinate your needs, and there is no permanent ledger recording your good deeds.
You don't get a certificate of completion.
Exactly. But the very moment you miss one payment, the moment you establish a single boundary, the collective narrative instantly shifts to label you as cold-blooded and ungrateful.
That is so unfair.
Years of compliance are erased, and a single refusal is broadcast to the entire extended network.
And that asymmetry highlights exactly why emotional debts are so much harder to clear than financial ones.
How do you mean?
Well, if you owe a bank $10,000, you can work a second job, save the money, hand them a check, and the debt is objectively cleared.
Right. The math protects you.
Exactly. But emotional debt has no objective math. The currency they are demanding is your ongoing compliance, which means the goalposts are perpetually moving.
They can always demand more.
So, if the game is inherently rigged and the debt is structurally infinite, how does Ting Shu Ching suggest a person actually settles this without entirely blowing up their life?
The psychological solution is establishing firm boundaries, but we really have to define what that actually looks like in practice. Ting shares a very illuminating case study from her practice to illustrate this.
Okay, I'd love to hear it.
She had a client who had functioned as her family's emotional trash can for 20 solid years.
A 20-year emotional trash can, the sheer burnout of that is hard to fathom.
It was entirely debilitating for the client. This woman absorbed all of her aunt's marriage issues, all of her cousin's endless grievances. She spent decades listening to hours of toxicity.
Just soaking it all up.
And she absorbed it all because refusing to listen felt unfilial. It felt like a direct violation of that communal relationship disguise. She believed that because they were family, she was morally obligated to provide endless emotional labor.
Because the culture told her that enduring that pain was proof she was a good family member.
Exactly. Until one day, she simply reached her absolute psychological limit. Her aunt called to launch into another complaint, and the client calmly said, "I don't have the energy to listen today. Let's talk another time."
Which, in any standard healthy relationship, is a perfectly reasonable and mundane boundary.
Completely reasonable, but her mother's response to this tiny boundary was chilling. The mother coldly replied, "You've changed," and hung up the phone.
Wow. There's the shareholders meeting instantly rendering its verdict.
Yep.
The phrase "you've changed" is entirely weaponized here. It's code for "you are defaulting on your debt and we are initiating social rejection."
Exactly right.
So how did the client process that? Did the neurobiological pain of that rejection pull her back into compliance?
This is where the clinical breakthrough happened. That night, despite the mother's intense coldness, the client felt an overwhelming sense of relief.
Really?
Relief.
For the first time in her life, she felt like a complete, separate individual who actually possessed the right to say no. She realized she didn't default on a genuine moral obligation. She simply renegotiated the interest rate on a profoundly unfair contract.
Oh, that is such a clarifying way to view it. If we take this financial metaphor to its logical conclusion, you aren't a 247 charity bank. You are effectively a limited company.
A limited company, I like that.
Yeah, and a limited company will go bankrupt if it pays out endless dividends without ever generating revenue. So as a limited company, you have the absolute right to declare selective default.
Yes, exactly.
You can look at this infinite promissory note and decide, I am only going to take on the emotional labor that my company can actually afford to pay out without destroying itself. That is a highly effective analogy. Declaring selective default is exactly what boundary setting is in this context. And Ting is very careful to clarify what breaking free actually means. Establishing boundaries isn't about becoming a villain.
Right.
It isn't about becoming genuinely selfish or cutting off your family in a fit of rage.
It's not about swinging the pendulum all the way to total isolation.
Not at all. It's about recalibrating your own psychology so that your refusal becomes a neutral act of self-preservation rather than a moral stain.
Neutral act. That's a great term.
It's about recognizing the critical difference between genuine reciprocal care and moral kidnapping. King argues that when you establish a boundary, you are actually clearing away the built-up resentment. You're stopping the emotional bankruptcy so that the care you do eventually give your family is authentic rather than coerced.
So instead of visiting them out of a terrifying sense of obligation while secretly harboring immense resentment and wishing you were anywhere else, you visit them when you actually have the emotional capacity to be present. You're replacing indentured servitude with actual conscious choice.
Precisely.
Yeah.
As Ting Shu Ching points out, the most precious state in life isn't flawlessly pleasing everyone else at the expense of your own existence.
No.
The goal of healthy psychological development is having a clear conscience toward others, while still fiercely maintaining a gentle, protective space for yourself.
It's realizing that you don't have to set yourself on fire just to keep the shareholders' meeting warm.
Well said.
But achieving that requires intentionally walking through that initial neurobiological pain we talked about. You have to say no, feel the biological panic of social rejection, and realize that you actually survive it.
You survive it.
The sky doesn't fall. You endure the accusation that you've changed, and you realize that changing, differentiating yourself from the enmeshed family mass was actually the objective all along.
It completely reframes how you interact with your family. It restores your agency. You're no longer acting out of a fear of debt collection. You're acting out of your own volition.
Which brings us right back to that piece of Dongpo pork sitting in your bowl at the New Year's Eve dinner.
Full circle.
Once you understand the mechanics of Ting Shu Ching's framework, you can look at that pork and realize the truth. You can eat it, you can enjoy it, you can genuinely thank them for it.
Absolutely.
But you recognize that it is just a piece of pork. You do not have to mortgage your future autonomy to pay for it.
That's right.
You know, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over long after we sign off today. We've spent this entire time analyzing how this emotional promissory note operates within the family unit. But if we accept Ting's premise about how easily exchange relationships can be disguised as communal ones, we have to ask ourselves where else this might be quietly operating in our lives.
That's an interesting point.
Are there friendships or even workplace dynamics where a manager's human touch is actually just a down payment on your weekend availability? It's something to seriously consider the next time a boss or a colleague looks at you and says, "We're a family here."
Oh, definitely.
On this channel, we don't serve instant feel-good pep talks, but walk with you to see the truth.
Subscribe to the Light Dance, Soaring Free channel, share our content, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell. See you next time.